Welcome home.
Hey everybody, I'm joining you live from Club Busy Money. I love this setup. This is crazy in here. Um, I'm just gonna change it back. I'm just having fun with these lights in here. Shout out to my nephew Trey for his setup. Um, I'm out and about right now, so I want to thank everybody for tuning in to today's show. I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. First and foremost, Howard's Blend. Get yourself some of that plant-based protein and some of that pre-workout. I really wish I had some of that pre-workout right now. Just got off the plane, just landed literally a few minutes ago. So I really could use that. I've been flying all day, but that's what this is about. And next up, we got Clarity. So y'all check out his merch, check out his website, check out what he's doing. That's Sydney Claire. And then next up, we got the book Fear. Proceeds from the book Fear go to the Mary Kemp Foundation. And it's also actually a pretty good book. I've heard pretty good reviews, and I think most of them or all of them are honest. So I don't think it's just a good book just because I wrote it. But yeah, check that out. And the paperback will be out as soon as possible. We're just waiting on some red tape. So that being said, we're gonna bring us over to the rules. And y'all know the rules for those of y'all who tuned in for the first time. Let's read them off. So got to be mindful of what you say, what you write. Got to be mindful of your background noise, music, or anything like that could get the show dropped off alive. And then let's have fun. Comment, questions, all of that. So I'm operating hands-free today. I'm operating off a phone, like I said, virtually. So I could see everything. If you guys are writing comments, I can see them as Nova's putting them up. Shout out to Nova, as always, for helping us out here with the production of the show. And today we're going to jump right in. We have a really good one. This one got more votes than any other poll that we did today. It's cash versus credit. And it's interesting because the story post was, I think it was, 11-1. And the post, like the public post, was 9-8. So it ended up being 20-9, which is basically give or take about 70% to 30%. So most of you guys, and I know a lot of the answers came from my clients, believe that credit is going to get you more than cash. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to dissect that today. So as always, I want to start with a few stats, some tips, and some information just so we could kind of set the stage for this discussion. And again, if anybody wants to join in, Nova could put that link out. You're more than welcome to come backstage and we could have a discussion. Last week we had 4 people join us and we had 5 questions and all 5 segments went well. So let's see what happens today. So let's start with credit. Let's see what we have about credit. I have a few stats. So you could see during COVID, basically 2020 to 2021, the credit card debt actually rose, which makes sense, right? A lot of people got laid off or got their hours cut or whatnot. So the debt level increased. And this is a stat that was interesting to me. That's why you pulled it, that people who make over 184,000 have just over or about 12,500 in credit card debt, which to me makes sense because I believe that if you make it 184,000 pretty much anywhere in America, they're probably doing pretty well. So some of those bills make sense, right? Like you're probably going to have a more expensive Christmas. Maybe you're going to go on vacations. Maybe you have higher bills, food expenses, etc. So that one was interesting. Let's see what else we got. No, but we can hit the next slide. Okay. Now we're going to bounce around, it seems. So this one is about cash. So remember, we're comparing debt or credit to cash, and cash relates to reserves, right? So savings. So now this is an interesting stat where only 39% of Americans could pay for a surprise bill. And this is something I pulled because if we do like the inverse, that means that 61%, right? Or two-thirds or 6 out of 10 Americans cannot afford a surprise $1,000 bill. What that means is the majority of Americans are check to check. They don't have $1,000 in the bank. So if a tire bursts, or if they get a ticket, or if there's a death in the family, or if the stove goes, or anything like that, most Americans cannot pay a surprise $1,000 bill. And the reason I feel like this one is really, really, really important is because I found this stat maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And as always, if I throw a number out, we always put the actual numbers in the comments. So, or in the description rather. 10 or 15 years ago, give or take, there was a stat that said 74% of Americans, give or take, couldn't afford a $500 bill. And then I read in an article and it said it was like 2021, 2022, that the economy and things are actually getting better because that number dropped from the 70s down to the 40s. So again, let's say it's 2010. In 2010, we're going to say 70% of people couldn't afford a $500 surprise bill. Then we fast forward to 2020, and they say that things are getting better because 50% of Americans could pay that bill. So what they were trying to say is that there was like a 20% increase. But if you look at it, what happened? What else happened over those 10 years? How about inflation? So $500 in 2010 is not equal to the same value as $500 is or was in 2020. So I'm glad, and that's why I pulled the $1,000 stat, because I believe that $1,000 is closer to what $500 was back at the time. So it really shows that we haven't done much better for people who are check to check, impoverished, low income, whatever words you want to use to define people in those situations. But no, the economy hasn't gotten that much better in terms of people being able to save and do certain things. So let's go to another stat. Okay. So we have people who have $50,000 in credit card debt. I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people that pull money off credit cards and invest with them. Zero interest only. Sometimes it's a transfer fee, 2%, 3%, but I don't mind spending, 2% of 50 grand. I don't mind spending, $1,000 or 3%, $1,500 to pull $50,000 to do a flip and make $25,000. Like, it's a no brainer for me because it's 100% OPM, and that I do things like that all the time. So about 2%, or rather 2 million Americans have that amount of debt. So if you figure about what, 350, 400 million Americans, 2 to 3% of Americans have this amount of debt. And then when you factor out children, teenagers, I know teenagers and children, but I'm saying people who are under 18 who may not acquire this type of debt, maybe elderly people, we're talking, let's say 20 to 65, 70. That drops that number down again. So if you're talking 2 million out of 200 million, that's a little bit more significant. So I thought that was another interesting stat. So let's see what else we have. Okay, now we get into a more realistic number where we're talking about $10,000 in debt. And I think that a lot of us have something like that. And that's 14 million Americans. So again, if we want to break that down to people who are eligible, we would say, or people who could use cards, let's say it was 140 million. That's 10%. So 280 would be 5%. So 5% of Americans have 10%, rather have $10,000 in credit card debt. Now, when you factor that into what the average American makes, that's a significant number. Let's see what else we got. Okay, so now we're going back and forth. So now let's see what the average savings account is. So now the average savings account in America is $4,500, which really doesn't make sense if you look at what the surprise bill issue is, right? So, right, average, all the numbers in numerical order, smallest to greatest. So now there might be somebody, let's say for example, who has $100,000 in their account. Well, that one person with $100,000 in their account takes care of 19 other people who have $0 in their bank account. So what this means is that there are people who have significant savings, because we already know that 61%, based on our last slide, or based on the previous slide, 61% of people can't afford $1,000 bill, surprise bill. So this number is a little bit deceiving. You just have to kind of tease into it. So I think that's our last stat. And I kind of want to ask a question. And we'll ask this question just so we can get some live feedback. And while I'm giving you guys the opportunity to answer, we're going to go to a little commercial break. That's something new for us on the show. So the question is going to be, is it cash or credit? What do you prefer? What do you think gets you further? You can write your answer. You can write your reason why. And we'll take 30 seconds, and then we'll start taking some answers. And then we'll jump into the end of the presentation. And then hopefully we'll have a discussion. Yeah. Shout out again to Howard's Blend. You really have to try that pre-workout. I never take pre-workout. It's some I try to do things as naturally as possible, but Howard can break down the ingredients. You can check out his podcast and you can hear why he did what he did. You can follow his page. Howard's Blend on Instagram. He's a really, really intelligent brother. Put that commercial together. Check out his pre-workout. You don't get super like jittery. It helps you focus. I'm somebody who, if I drink a cup of coffee, I would get the jitters because I don't drink coffee. And I've taken that pre-workout and was able to study for exams. So definitely check out Howard's pre-workout and the protein while you're at it. So now let's take some answers. Let's see what we have. All right, credit. All right, that's OPM. Thank you for your answer. All right, let's see what Coach Lee has to say. Credit all the way. Absolutely. OPM, debt. I like it. Oh, Ryan, let's go. Credit. Do we have any cash people? Anybody that thinks cash is king? Yeah, there you go, Geet. Right? Cash rules everything around me. All right, credit. All right, so now let's see. Because again, there's no right or wrong answer. A lot of this stuff is subjective, but let's dive into it. Let's talk real estate. When we purchase properties that are distressed or off market or foreclosure, a lot of those deals have really stringent time constraints. And what you may know or may not know is that when you go to a bank, even if you qualify, outside of hard money, which means high interest, high fee, it's going to take at least 3 weeks because you have to wait for an appraiser. And that's usually what slows down the process. So on a good deal, it's 30 days. Sometimes we get homes where we have to purchase the house within 48 hours or 1 week or 10 days, which is the amount of time it usually takes for title to clear. Now, because we're paying cash, we have to ask for a discount. So if we have a $150,000 house and we're going to finance it, sure, we take 30 to 60 days. We put down, 20%, 10% with hard money, which would be 15 grand, 30 grand, some closing costs. And we can pay 150 because remember, we're only laying out $15,000, $30,000, $40,000, right? But if I'm paying cash, I have to focus on my cash on cash return. I have to think about my ROI, right? My return on investment. So if I invest 40 grand and I make 5,000 back, that's a good day, right? Because I'm over 10%, right? I'm closer to 12% or over 12%. But if I lay out 150,000 and I make 5 grand, well, that's a problem, right? So we have to have a higher yield or we have to get a better price. So when we negotiate and we use cash, cash helps us in those situations because we'll end up getting $150,000 house for 100 grand. And that 50K that's left on the table is our room for renovations, to pay investors, to pay realtors, to pay contractors, to pay back taxes, whatever it is. So in that sense, cash is king. You could negotiate a lot better with cash. It is. There are benefits to cash. And then we also have like the big brother side of things, right? So some people don't like to be tracked and they don't want their transactions being detailed and they don't want spam and all of these other things. So cash works in those situations as well because you can go ahead and sometimes you get a better price when you pay cash for things. And it's a little easier to maneuver again if you don't want your privacy being infringed on. Well, now we go back to the other side of the coin, which is credit. I just told you I use credit. I use OPM sometimes to fund my cash deals. If you read the book Fear, I detail that. That's how I got my first property. My first property, I only put up 2,500 of my own money, and I leveraged OPM to pay off the balance, and then we built on from there. So there's a benefit to having credit as well. So I think it's all a matter of how you use them. If you're gonna use cash or credit, you gotta be responsible with both. And if you have access to credit or if you have access to cash, whether it's pulling out equity from your home, or if it's, which I guess is it could also be looked at as credit too, but not really because it's your equity, it's your house. So cash out on your home or like a pawn shop model or crowdfunding. There are benefits to both and there's downsides to both, right? So again, when you buy things with cash, there's ways which I show my clients where you can get receipts and deductions for buying things with cash. But then when you use a credit card, like they charge you the 3% fee, or they charge you like in New York. For my New Yorkers, you go buy something with cash, they give it to you at a cash price. You use a credit card, they charge you tax, then they charge you the card processing fee. You might end up spending 11 to 12% more because purchase tax out here, sales tax out here is, what is it, 8.865 or 8.75? I'm a Texan now, so it's been a while, but it's basically 9% plus a 3% card fee. Now you're paying 12%. If you're doing something like that on a car, 30, 40, $50,000 purchase, a piece of jewelry, that ends up affecting your price significantly. So it is something to think about. With that being said, I felt like this is a hot button issue. Hopefully, maybe we'll have somebody that wants to join or has some comments or questions so we could see if we could take a caller before we wrap up for the show. But for those of you who've tuned in for the first time, when I'm done with my presentation, I'm done with my presentation. So if it's a 15-minute show, then it's a 15-minute show. If it's a 30-minute show, or last week it went an hour because we had 5 calls, that's how it works. So I want to see if anybody has questions. You can ask questions about anything. It doesn't have to be about cash versus credit. This is your opportunity to get answers for anything. You can start writing your questions now. And as always, I give like 30 seconds because there's a lag from YouTube back to StreamYard. So we'll see. But if y'all don't have any questions, I'm going to enjoy. I'm about to go to dinner. Just giving y'all a few more seconds. All right. Nova got the comment box up. Okay, let's see. Thank you for your question, Lee. Let's see. When am I going to be in Killeen and you like to become a student? First off, shout out to my man Lee. We met the other night at the Best of Bell County presentation. I'm always in Centex, and actually, when I'm done here, I'll shoot you a text, and then we could talk about that. But yeah, we'd be glad to have you on the team. And then what's cool is we'll refer back to this show, and then we'll be able to show some of your progress and show your success story. But yeah, Lee, we'll talk about that, and I can see you in a few days. We have a couple meetings set up and workshops set up at the new Mind Molders Academy in Harker Heights. So that's a very, very exciting venture. Thanks, Al. Yeah, about to enjoy some dinner. I'm looking forward to it. A new restaurant, Yatsu. Never been there. Mediterranean. We try to replace Sahara for all my New Yorkers. Nothing with Sahara, man. There'll never be another Sahara. Yeah, Howard, 100% correct, man. Those taxes kill you. The taxes kill you on some purchases, and especially with the way even groceries with the inflation and whatnot, it really does hurt both the consumer and the seller. I'm not gonna advocate yes or no. I mean, everybody should pay their taxes. Everybody should contribute to society. You know how I feel about taxes. I just want to make sure that we all know that we should only pay our fair share. You shouldn't pay a penny more. And if there are rules on the books that allow us to get deductions and write-offs and so on and so forth, we should maximize those because they're legal and we should take advantage of them before the rules change. I mean, if the powers that be didn't like the tax rules, you would think they would change them, right? Whether Democrat or Republican. It didn't matter who was in office. People who knew the tax game paid minimal income taxes. And I'm a big advocate for that. So any other questions? I'll take you out to dinner with me. I'll mess with these lights. All right. Thank you for your question, Clarity. Let's see. How long would you keep a debt out that you got from a credit card? So let's look at that. And that's actually, that's a perfect question. May are you? I think my bro Clarity. I think are you still in Belize? I'd say because if you want, you could join live, man. I'd wait the 30 seconds. If you want to come backstage, you can. If you can't, that's cool too. I'll answer your question. I want to give this bit of information. But just let me know with a thumbs up, thumbs down, or answer before I answer this question, and we'll end on this because that's a really, really good question. While we're trying to see if Clarity can get backstage, I'm gonna break this into two parts. So he asked, how long would I hold credit card debt? It depends on the situation. For me, I get those cash advances, 0 interest. Usually they're 12 months to 18 months. So I'm going to hold them for 12 months to 18 months. Or I'm going to invest it in whatever I'm investing in. And then when the investment matures, I pay that off. And then I rinse and repeat and I start all over again. And usually there's no closing costs on those. Usually they're just, like I said, a transfer fee, 2 to 4%. So again, of every $10,000, it's $200 to $400. Negligible, considering you have 0 interest for a year, 18 months, etc. So now I want to break down like AYP, right? You're basically your annual yield, right? Your interest almost. Now there's a little difference. Yeah, I only use the 0 interest cards. I'll show you. Like I have a gang of them. I'm somebody who always gets new credit cards. I get a couple new cards a year, and we just stack them up. And I mean, I'll use 100,000 in credit cards, ruin my credit, and who cares? I don't need credit. I have a house. I have cars. I'm not going to use credit for anything. And through my business has strong credit. So, I have relationships and I'm going to get those loans regardless. My rates aren't really going to change because of my credit score. That's something that they don't tell people. Something Robert Kiyosaki preaches all the time. He says, who cares? Rich people don't need need credit, right? They have assets. So that being said, let's say interest rate is 24%, right? Which is really high. No, I never get rid of them. I keep the cards. But let's go with 24%, right? Because that's 2% per month. So people think that you're paying 24%. Let's say you put a $10,000 card out, that you're gonna pay 24% the next month, right? So like your next bill is gonna have $2,400 tacked onto the 10 grand. That's not how it works. It's 24% AYP, which means over 365 days. So you take that number and you divide that number by 365. I could use an easier number if you wanted. So let's say 360, just to kind of make the math simple. So 360, half of that is 18, right? So let's say you had an 18% credit card. That would mean every day, if you divided that, you're at 0.05%. So if you have a $10,000 card, every day you're paying 50 cents on that 10 grand. And then you multiply that times 30 days in a month. That's how they calculate your monthly interest payments, right? So 50 times 50, rather 30 times 50 cents. So $5, $15, right? Or give or take, right? Or it could be 150, right? Move the decimal over. But that's on 10 grand. If you waited the whole year, you eventually hit your 2,400, right? So actually, if we did that math, 15 times 12, $150 times 12 is 1,800. If I said you had a $10,000 card with an 18% rate, 18% of 10,000 is 1,800, 150 a month. You see how I did that math? That's why they call me the math man. So hopefully I answered your question, and hopefully I gave y'all a gem that maybe you didn't understand. So a lot of times I don't care if I have credit cards that have interest on them too. They be 14, 13%. I understand that that's an annual number. I'm really only paying like 1% a month on that number, whatever I'm borrowing. So if the deal I'm in is going to make me more money, I have no problem leveraging credit. Because cash is king. I know I say I live off OPM, which I do, and that's helped me build my wealth. But what's wealth without cash, if that makes sense? Like you need cash. So it's a mixture of both, like everything. So with that being said, I don't see any more questions. I'll give you 5 more seconds. And if not, I appreciate everybody for being here. I'm operating off the phone today, so I can't see the count. I'll get the stats when we're done. And I appreciate everybody for tuning in. Live from Club Busy Money. I'm really loving these lights. You might have to add these lights to the house. Like you got all these different colors and stuff. Like I think this is something I want to play with. I'm gonna see if my wife is going, she thinks this is dope. You know what I'm saying? I think we might have to get something like this in the house. This is nice. So just a little, you know what I'm saying? We up in the ante. We got the commercials now. We got the lights in the background. Live on location, live from Brooklyn, New York. Peace. Oh, there I got the eyes. So I don't know. I don't know if she's gonna like the lights, but we'll see. Y'all see the lights, y'all know she liked them. So I appreciate all y'all. And thank you for tuning in. Peace.